Hello, everybody, and welcome. Glad you guys are joining us tonight. It is a special treat tonight. We get to welcome a very good friend of mine, Folkbuilder Heather Young, here because she is resoundingly so by her peers, the example of the virtue of hospitality. So, welcome, Heather. Good to have you on the show.
Hello.
Um, Top of the show stuff. We are broadcasting on YouTube, Twitter, Odyssey, something else that's escaping me right now. Nick will probably post those things up. Yes, Entropy. That's the and VK. So we're on all of those things. If you want to join us on Entropy, you are able to donate, which we appreciate. And you're also able to get your questions to the front of the line if you want to participate in the super chat. Other top of the show things. Our first moot that we are hosting at Sigerheim is going to be on the 14th of this month. And it looks like a lot of people are coming out for that. Again, it's a vacant chunk of land right now, so it's not like there's a ton of stuff, but some folks are getting an Airbnb we're going to spend time hanging out at, and we're going to go on the property. We're going to explore, get a feel for the place, plot some stuff out of what we want to do, and just kind of envision what we want to see there in the future. So that's very exciting. Anybody who can do that, that's going to be in Central Tennessee. Let your folk builder know if you're interested in attending that, and they can get you set up. I think that's where we're at. So, Heather, could you tell us a little bit about hospitality and why that's something that you're so prolific at, or why that's something that's so important to you?
Um, it's just kind of how I've always been. When I was very little, my mom remarried and I was adopted by another gentleman. And his mother, I just wanted to be her. Like when I met her, she was just perfect. Like it was like we never didn't know each other. We did crafts. She treated me just like all the other grandkids. And I wanted to be just like her. So from when I was five up, I just mimicked her all the time. And I mean, she never met a stranger, and nobody ever did was unwelcome at her home or was to feel unwelcome at her home. So it's just always been a thing. Like that was a big deal to me to be felt like I was part of their family. So I always make sure that everybody feels like they're part of something, no matter where it is I meet them at.
Well, for those of you that may not know, Heather is a major plank of the team that runs Thorshoff in Linden, North Carolina. And Heather's really taken upon herself to make that a welcoming place for all of our folk and to take charge of the hospitality there. And it's really something to see. I hope you guys get a chance to experience that if you make it out in the Carolinas. But yeah, that's always remarked on, and it's certainly appreciated. Hospitality is such an important thing to us and such an important part of our culture. It's very long been the AFA's, I guess, motto in a way is welcome home. And the idea of people coming home to Asatru and coming into the AFA and feeling like they're in a place that they belong and like they're coming back to home and to family. And it means so much to us when people describe it that way when they join us. And folks like Heather are such a big part of making that a reality and fulfilling that promise. Heather, this is your first time on the program. So something we kind of ask folks when they are on here first. Real quick, we've got a $3 donation from Sarah. And here Sarah says, Heather, you look absolutely beautiful. I agree. You look great, Heather.
Thank you.
All right. So what I was going to ask you was, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to Asatru and it may be the same, may be different, but how did you come to the Asatru Folk Assembly?
Well, I might make people a little bit angry, but when I first learned about Asatru, my husband and my daughter were practicing Asatru, and I made fun of them. I told them that they were going to raid villages and wear horns on their heads and furs and all that. So Daniel was searching online to find. Lauren asked if we could find more people like them, or she didn't want to do it anymore. So Daniel started looking online, and he found a gentleman that then hooked him up with a folk builder in South Carolina. And Daniel called me and he said he was going to take Lauren to this event at this guy's house. And I'm like, you're not going without me. You're not taking my kid around a whole bunch of weird people without me. So I went, and there were some people there that were very, very, very nice to me. Like, they didn't treat me like I was dumb because I didn't know anything, and they could tell that I was trying to figure out what they were talking about. So they would sit with me and then break it down into smaller chunks so I could understand what the other guys were talking about. And when I left, I just felt so welcomed and like I fit somewhere, that when we pulled out of the driveway, I put in an application.
Well, that's great. I'm really glad that they drug you along to that and that it worked out so well for you. We are definitely better off having you with us. Got some questions stacking up over here. Brandy asks, Heather, what made you want to be a folk builder for the AFA?
It was two reasons. One, Daniel was a folk builder, and I already kind of did things with Daniel, so I wanted to help, in bringing people home, and so they could have the same that I have, but also because I was so introverted that I wanted to push myself to actually put myself out there, to actually, not have Daniel make my doctor's appointments for me because I was afraid to talk on the telephone. Now I had to talk on the telephone. So it was kind of a selfish reason and a good reason. I helped bring people to the AFA, but I also helped make myself stronger by doing it.
Well, good to hear that. I think that's important, and I don't think that's wrong. Some people get uncomfortable when they mention they get a benefit out of it, and you should. There's nothing wrong with ambition, and there's nothing wrong with getting the just rewards for your hard work and for stepping up into a position of leadership. So, I mean, as long as you're earning it and being worthy of it, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And you certainly are worthy of it. You're doing a fantastic job of folk building. The King of Cheese, Matt, Heather, good to see you both. How are you? How are we going tonight? How are you doing, Heather?
I'm doing good.
All right. I'm doing good as well. You know me, it's always the same answer. I love talking to my friends, and I like talking to you guys and just being with my AFA family. So I'm doing fantastic. But I always appreciate you asking and checking in, Tony. Shay asks, Heather, do you have any suggestions or practices on how we could be better at welcoming guests to our homes?
I just always think about how I feel when I go to someone else's house, or how I want them to make me feel. So if I go like to your house and I sit over in the corner and nobody talks to me and I just feel like I don't belong, then I try to do the opposite of that. I try to, make sure everybody's spoken to, if they need something, if they want something to drink, find something in common so we can have conversations, or talk about what we don't have in common. I just always try to do exactly the opposite of what I don't like when I'm somewhere where I don't feel like I fit in. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think like I said, hospitality is really at the core of what we do and of what makes this real. And I think that a lot of us come to this from different places, and we are in a period in our history in the West to where people are very, very isolated, especially after these last couple of years. A whole lot of people are cut off from other people. Their social interactions are online, you know, online channels where they get in political arguments with fake names and no faces that you don't really know who you're talking to, and you don't get the same interaction that you do with actually spending time with somebody in real life. And I think that we suffer from that as a culture now. I think it's much harder. I watch young people come up and they don't have that interaction where they've got to make friends with other young people, where they have to go and meet a guy or a girl in a social situation and make something happen organically. It's all through this kind of the anonymity of the internet, and I think we suffer because of it. So one of the things that I love so much about the Asatru Folk Assembly, and always have, is the fact that we're real and we get together and we do stuff. If some of us are separated over large distances, it's great to do things like this where we get to interact with each other. But the meat and the taters of what we're doing is our in-person moots, welcoming people into your homes. And this goes on back of Shay's question a little bit. Fundamentally, the idea of welcoming people into my home is what my experience with Asatru is built on. When I was up in Alaska and I started folk building, that was the key to everything we did. Was I would open up my home and have people over for a dinner, and we'd do a bloat, we'd do a stumble and whatever, and we'd share a meal together around my table. And that's always been so very fundamental to this that we do. And we extend that to welcoming folks into our hofs, and it's just really nice to see. So hospitality is really at the core of real Asatru practice. And Nick, can you throw up that picture real quick? So hospitality always means a lot to me. And I learned that from my grandmother, my mother's mom, Mary Ann Davis. Her picture's on the screen now. She was that for our family. I grew up close enough to where I was around my grandparents, and she would always have us over for the holidays and anything else at her home, and really embedded into me the importance of hospitality. So I keep a picture of her hanging in my kitchen so I can remember that when I'm preparing meals for the folk when we have them over. And she's really my inspiration behind the hospitality that myself and my family exhibit. We got a question from Sarah. Heather, you have an awesome story about the toy drive donations for the Hoff. Would you please share it?
Sure. I applied for Toys for Tots for Thor's Hoff, and we got approved. And I went, they called me and said my toys were ready. So I went and got the toys, and I took them to the Hoff. And I wasn't expecting the amount of toys that they gave us. So I was going through them and seeing what all I had. And then I went home. A couple days later, I get another call, and I'm trying to tell this lady that I already had my toys, and she kept trying to tell me that no, I didn't. So I kept on going back and forth with her, and she goes, "No, honey, you have a second load of toys." So I said, "Okay, I'll come up there on Thursdays because that's my day off." So I drive back up there on Thursday, and they give me more toys. And she was saying that they didn't know what Hoff meant. So they were calling it Thor's House of Fun. And I told her, I said, "Well, it is Thor's House of Fun." And she said, "Well, wonderful. We were right." She said, "But I Googled y'all." And then we were loading the toys, and she was quiet and I was quiet because I didn't know what was going to come next from I Googled y'all. So when I shut my van, she gave me a hug and she told me, she said, "Honey, keep doing what you're doing. They'll see one day." And it just made me cry. I just cried so hard all the way back to the Hoff to put the toys in the Hoff which was a whole nother van load. So, but I just thought that was cool. And then she told me, put your application in next year. We'll have a place for you.
That's fantastic. You really knocked it out of the park this year. This was Thorshoff's first year of doing our Yule toy giveaway that we try to do at all of our Hoffs, and it was very successful this year. And that was, that was all Heather and the love and the work she put into it. So it's much appreciated. Trent asks, "Hey Heather, is there a particular god or goddess that inspires you to be so hospitable?"
I think it's kind of all of them. There's little pieces of all of them that I want to honor. So I try to do my best especially when I'm at the Hoff, to show how grateful I am to be there, and to honor the gods, to know who they are, because I didn't know who they were for so long. So, I mean, I love Frigga, but all of them in some way kind of push me to do that, because you never know who's coming to the Hoff. You never know who is their favorite god. And everything brings people to the Hoff for a reason. Everybody's coming for their own reason. So I think all the gods kind of fulfill that for me, if that makes sense. Without
It absolutely does make sense. Brandy asks, "Heather, is there a difference between daily hospitality versus for a big national event hospitality?"
No, I don't think so. And that's my personal opinion. I try to be who I am at the Hoff, everywhere I go. I'm not always perfect, of course, but I mean, I do the same thing at my job. Um, if people are having to run too much at work, I'll stay over and not get paid for it, to help so they can get home too. So hospitality, I guess, is just in me. I do it everywhere I go. Helping people at the grocery store, getting Lauren to help people at the grocery store, getting Daniel to help people at the grocery store or at a store, or everywhere I go, I'm just always seem to be helping somebody or making somebody laugh or feel better. So it's kind of the same for me personally, at home and at the Hoff.
Well, and I think, that's something I was alluding to a little bit earlier, but the Hoff hospitality is very much an extension of our personal hospitality and the hospitality we learn at home. In a way, those of us who are fortunate enough to regularly attend our Hoffs, those very much become our home. And when we welcome guests or people who, newcomers to the Hoff, folks that way, it very, very strongly feels like welcoming people into your home. And I think that's really what we try to show. And I think it's why it's so natural and so genuine, is because we feel that way about our Hoffs. And I know we've got folks, men and women, but very often our ladies, that really take a lead in that hospitality at our Hoffs. And, there's always a few of them at each of our Hoff that do such a good job of welcoming people and providing that hospitality. It's something I'm so proud of every time I get to experience. Christine asks, "Heather, how does building frith and hospitality work together in unison?"
Well, I feel like they go hand in hand, because if you don't have frith and everybody's getting along and everything's working smoothly, it's hard to be hospitable. I mean, you can be, and I have been before, but if everything's running smooth and everybody's, getting along and everything's going as planned, it makes things so much easier to just have a good time and not have to work to be hospital. If there's some kind of conflict, then it makes you work harder to be nice and help people. You might even start feeling a little like, I don't want to be there because it's rough. But definitely when it's fruitful, it's way much easier to be nice and make people feel at home.
Definitely one of the functions that is also extremely important from our ladies at our hofs is being frith weavers, and through hospitality, among other things, really bonding people there together in a way to where we're united and where relationships are built and strengthened amongst our families, our members, and new people that come. Building and weaving that frith, I think, goes hand in hand with hospitality, and it's something that our ladies really strive for. Buck asks, Heather, do you feel that children are a big part of our folk and church's future? Is there anything that would help spark their interest in our lore?
Our children are absolutely everything. They are our future. Without our children, this won't be carried on. As far as teaching them the lore with Lauren, at first we kind of try to make it fun, like a game. Now that she's older, I'll be studying something and I'll just throw out a question and either she can answer or not. And then if she can't, we just go over, whatever it was we were talking about. But like just you can find little things that I guess probably shouldn't be taken silly, but I'm not going to remember the name, even though I know I should. But the horse that pulls the moon, but the foam comes out its mouth. And then you go on later, and the next man and woman live off the foam, off the dew. So I kind of help Lauren with that because I'm like, Lauren, guess what? This horse, the foam from his mouth makes the dew. And then they live off the dew, but then she remembers, so when they're smaller, you kind of got to make it fun. When they're older, you kind of make it more serious.
I think that's good advice. Keeping it fun and little interesting or gross or
Right.
whatever factoids out of the lore. Those are the things that make stuff stick. And I think that's really cool that you're able to do that with Lauren. Katie asks, good evening. Since sharing a meal with folk is such a part of fellowship, what is your favorite meal to cook for family and friends? Heather, what you got? What's your favorite meal to cook?
My favorite thing to cook, well, my husband's favorite thing for me to cook is hamburger steak and mashed potatoes and green beans or fried pork chops. So if you come over and Daniel is feeling like he can eat bad, then that's what we'll eat. But or lasagna. His dad taught me how to make their family lasagna recipe, and then he said I do it better than him, so now he won't cook it, so I have to cook it for everybody.
Good deal. Because there wasn't a specific name attached to that, I'm going to throw this out there as a bonus. My favorite thing to cook lately for folks is tropical schnitzel. I'm going to take this moment to plug tropical schnitzel because I had the idea and I thought it was going to be good. People doubted me. It turned out amazing. I've made it several times now. So it's just regular pork schnitzel, but in the batter, I decided to try, why couldn't you make coconut shrimp, but with schnitzel? Turns out you can. So I use the same batter for the coconut shrimp, which is basically the schnitzel batter, but with a bunch of coconut flakes in it. And fried that up, absolutely amazing. And the sauce was just the like sweet chili orange marmalade sauce that you make with the coconut shrimp, and it turned out fantastic. Can't say enough about it. Figured I would plug it. Tropical schnitzel. That's what's up. Next question is, do y'all listen to Nordic music on YouTube? From Fimble and Herknunger. Heather, is that your jam?
Okay, y'all got me. I know songs. I can sing them to you. I do not know who sings songs or names of songs. If you ask me a song and you give it to me by name, I literally have to type it in and Google it and listen to it to see if I know that song.
You know, I think these two are going to stump a lot of folks. I have never heard of either of those bands. I'll certainly check them out. Are they more are they folk music? I'm not sure. I'll check it out. I really like some of the Nordic folk music that I've heard out there, and I've tried to check some of that out, but I can't say I'm real, aficionado on it. We've got another question, one from Olivia. Hi, Matt and Heather. Good to see you both. Do y'all have a favorite children's book that explains our gods and goddesses? Heather, do you have a favorite children's book?
I have one, but I don't know what it's called. Somebody gave it to me a long time ago. It's on our bookshelf. I can run and get it. I can't remember. But it has all the stories in it. But it broke down for children to understand. If you send me a MeWe message, I will send you a picture of the book.
You know what, Heather? I'm having the exact same problem.
I know it's Nora something.
There's one book, I think it's by Delaire's. It looks like it's colored pencil drawings, but it's really neat, and I like that. And I think somebody over on the side will probably post it up. I'm sorry, we don't have a better go-to answer for you on that. We really should.
Hold on. The book has a road. This book, when we first joined, this book was given to Lauren, and
it's the same book.
Oh, is it?
No, yeah. actually, no, it's not. No, it's not. I didn't see the bottom.
She really loved it. It was it's really she still reads it sometime, but it breaks down each god, and it's where they can understand it. If we read the books we read to them, they're not going to understand them. But yeah, my daughter is 13 now, but when we joined, she really, really liked this book, and it came with, I think, Slepner, but I can't remember. But it came with a little animal too.
Always good. Toys always good. Tony asks, what kind of music have you two been listening to lately? Heather, what music have you been listening to lately?
Okay, me and Christine just had this conversation. I listen to everything. You name it. Daniel hates going on car rides because you can't put it on a station that I can't sing. My grandpa used to listen to opera in the car, so I can sing that station too. So, yeah, I embarrassed Daniel pretty bad at the gym the other day because my playlist was New Kids on the Block and all kinds of terrible things that made him make fun of me for quite a few hours. But I listen to anything. It just, a word will pop in my head and I'm like, oh, I haven't heard that song in forever. And I'll put it in and start listening to it. So,
Tony, I'm trying to think of what I've listened to lately. That's one of the things, really and truly. I listen to so much different stuff. It's hard to, it's hard to narrow down like what I've been listening to lately because I don't have something particularly I've been focused on a lot. But it's pretty diverse tastes in music. I too like to sing obnoxiously on road trips. Big fan of singing along to Heart and Journey. I think Heart and Journey are some of my favorite things to sing to. But yeah, I couldn't really tell you what I've been listening to lately.
Yeah, you blame me for that last road trip to
Ah,
Osara.
I
If
embrace
you
it.
wouldn't have started singing, I wouldn't have started singing.
It was all good. It was a good time. We're gonna do more of that on the way out to Sigerheim.
Yep.
It's happening. Um, Shay asks, is there an example in our lore that shows hospitality, or maybe the result of whether or not it was extended? Yes, there's tons. Um, Thinking of one off the top of my head because there really are a great many is the one. Okay, the one that stands out to me, and it's not so much that it's a lesson in hospitality, but it really shows our ancestral hall culture in a way that others don't. And I think that's extremely important. And I think in a lot of ways, that idea of the Great Hall and the mead service and how that goes about is a big part of our ancestral hospitality. So Beowulf is always a big go-to of mine. I think Beowulf is often overlooked, and there's so many different themes in there and things to pick up. But the the portions where they're feasting and they're welcoming guests into Hrothgar's hall, um, I think those really speak a lot to me about hospitality. Heather, is there any bit of our lore that you pick up on that's really speaks strongly about hospitality?
The first thing that ever grabbed my attention when Daniel was helping me learn was the stories about Rig. I love those stories. Um, that was my very very favorite. It still is my very very favorite.
Good deal. um, so Ansgar Drenger, what is a good way to share our lore with teenage or young adult kids, like 14 through 18? Um, do you have any thoughts on that, Heather?
Um, I've been doing a lot of studying myself lately, so um, I had where I needed to rewrite the Voluspa where I could teach it to somebody. So what I did is I took it upon myself to write it with my 13-year-old sitting next to me and making sure that as I wrote it, she could understand what I was saying. So um I guess like if there's something in particular you want to teach them, read it yourself and then just make notes and then kind of break it down for them the best you can without losing anything in it, but still make it where they can digest what you're saying.
You know, it's an interesting question, and I think this is kind of tangentially related. Um, for that age group, and I'd even extend it past that. 14 through probably early 20s is a very hard, very difficult age group to reach, and I don't think that's just us. I think that's any any religion has a struggle with that. You see that throughout, Christian churches here in the United States. Um, you see that a lot. And it doesn't seem to matter what the denomination is. It's, those kids are going through a phase in their life where they're focused on so many things, so many other things, so many hormonal things. They're doing all this different stuff, and getting them to focus on coming to a house of worship and participating in religion is very hard. Um, it means the world to me when we get that, when we get young people that, and we've had this happen before, young people that want to come and be involved, and they end up having their parents bring them to events because you can't, come by yourself until you're an adult. And we also, we won't accept you for membership until you're legally an adult. So we ask that, if people under the age want to come to stuff, that they get their parents to come with them, or a guardian or something of that nature. And we've had that happen, and that always means a lot when people in that age bracket want to be involved with what we do. There's a couple of things with that in real life, and I know your question was about the lore, and I don't have a good answer on how to get them interested in the lore. But what I think leads to that, but from a different direction, is to get them involved with our folk and our faith community, get them to make friends with other people in their age bracket within the Asatru Folk Assembly, and have those be real friends, not just friends that you get together with when you're at the Hof, but friends that, you text back and forth with, and you go do stuff with. And we're finally to a point where we're getting enough young people in that age bracket to where they can group up and do things together. It's very hard for them to feel like they're alone at an event with a bunch of adults and people that, aren't really in their peer group, and to sit there wishing they were doing something else. I found that when they find other kids there, they get together, they have a great job, they build friendships, and it's really, really nice to see that. And again, like I said, that's not just, it's not just little kids, it's not just the teenagers. I've seen this with, I saw this recently at Feast of the Einherjar in Oklahoma. We had folks from, like, I don't know, I think 17 to 24 or something, all kind of hanging out, and they hung out by themselves, had their own fun, had a great time. And it was really, really cool to see that. So I think getting them to events with other kids their age and letting that happen naturally is the key to long-term success on that. Nick reminds me that the first regularly scheduled national event at Njordshof in White Springs, Florida, is occurring in February. Charming of the Plow. Each of our Hofs has their one kind of showcase event that people from certainly all throughout their Hof district, but also from around the country, like to go to. Those are kind of a bigger deal. They're a big chance for, a little bit of extra fundraising for that Hof, and a chance for them to really shine and have that showcase. And the first one for Njordshof is occurring this February. So if you can get there, it is a beautiful Hof. It's our newest Hof. Those people have put so much love into that place and into the events that they hold there and what they do. I'm very excited to be back there and get to participate in that. I'm going to be bringing my wife and my daughter to this one. It's been a while. Mandy's been on the sidelines with, us having a young child for a couple of years now. I think she's only traveled out once in the past 2 years. So this will be really nice for her to get to go to an event. And I get to show off my wife, get to show off my daughter, and Mandy gets to go back home to Florida, where she hasn't been in far too long, and see some of her kinfolk and some friends of hers there. So it'll be a really good event. I would love to see you guys if you can make it to White Springs, Florida. That's about halfway between Tallahassee and Jacksonville, in that very far North Florida section. If you drew a line straight there and cut it in half, the halfway point is just about at White Springs. Nick asks, Heather, is there a favorite female figure in the lore that speaks to you?
I tend to really feel a connection with, probably it's going to be Frigga. With being a mother and a grandmother, and a wife, just a lot of things just connect. And really, really, really kind of hit home with me with Frigga.
Well, I think that's a great choice. Honestly, I was thinking about this a little bit earlier. Hospitality is such an important part of what I want us to embody at Sigerheim. And I'm ridiculous. I sit around and obsess about these things and dream on these things a lot. Um, our great hall at Sigerheim, Victory Hall, I'm just like planning in my head what that building will look like, what we'll do there. I know it's probably several years out from being a reality, but you know, I'm I dream forward. It's just what I do. And I was thinking about that, and I really want to have a Frigga shrine towards the entrance of the hall to welcome her in and look to that to inspire us having hospitality in that place. So yeah, I think Frigga is a great choice as somebody to speak to you, and I also think a perfect goddess for us to talk about when we're talking about hospitality. Lawrence for 10 Canadian dollars. Thank you, Lawrence. We always appreciate it. Evening, Matt, and nice to meet you, Heather. Relaxing stream tonight after a hard day. Mentioning your grandma, Matt, reminded me of mine. A widow who used to single handedly make us holiday dinners and also take us all out to restaurants. Great memories of her. Thanks to you both, and love your accent, Heather. Heather's accent is very endearing. So Lane asks, Heather, what is your favorite meal to share with guests? So pick one that you didn't pick earlier when you answered the question. Number 2.
I like to cook steaks for Trent and Madison when they come stay with us. So we'll do steak and baked potatoes this time.
And again, as a bonus, because I latched onto your question last time, I am always a fan of making the some kind of ridiculous girly cocktails. I love me a fancy cocktail. I love me a girly drink with put an umbrella in it. That's my jam. But yeah, I like finding interesting drink recipes for folks. I think it helps loosen stuff up. It's festive, and I enjoy doing that. It's part of the hospitality I like to do. I saw earlier Trent throw a little bit of shade about my tropical schnitzel. Trent's not adventurous when it comes to the foods, but we're going to work on that. One day he will try tropical schnitzel, and it will change his life.
And he needs to like pickles.
He does need to adjust his stance on pickles. For the record, Gothi Trent East does not like pickles, and he is wrong. Shay asks, I am excited to to get out to Sigerheim with y'all for the picnic. Is there a best way to approach the property in respect of the land rights? Will a land taking ceremony happen sooner or later on? Good question. I was talking with Gothi Young about that just this afternoon. We're going to be prepared for a land taking. I think, honestly, not having physically set foot on the property myself, can't tell you what it feels like or, any specific advice to that place and the land spirits of that place. I think that the best bet when dealing with any sort of land spirits or, it's funny because I think when we talk about the supernatural, people assume there's different protocol and different rules. To me, it's all about relationship building, and we do that through empathy, and empathy affects how you deal with other people, how you deal with anything. I think it's how you deal with pets. It's how you deal with other people that you meet for the first time. I think it's how you deal when you make any involvement with a thinking creature. if you show up with friendliness and with respect, and you go through those motions of trying to do those things, I don't think you can really go wrong with that. Um, I think that land spirits and ghosts and anything else, they can be jerks or they could be nice. And I think you probably got about the same odds as you do with people. But I think you start out warm-hearted. You start out building a frith relationship, and you just go from there. So I think when we get there, we'll say a little prayer, or a little, I guess, message to the land whites, and introduce ourselves, and we'll kind of go from there. I'm prepared to do a land taking. What I really want to do, the folks that surveyed it, they didn't really do like a 2022 survey. They did like a 1922 survey. So there was a whole lot of fence posts to this tree, to this other tree, to this other different kind of tree. And I'm very much hoping that there are flags, or there is spray paint on the trees, or there's surveyor's tape or whatever, so we can figure out the exact property line. And I think that's going to determine a lot of how we do land taking there. But it is my plan, and I'm going to become prepared for that. Okay, so Nick asks, what's y'all's favorite concert that we've been to? Heather, what's the favorite concert you've been to?
I'm just gonna go with the last one I've been to, and I I went to the New Kids on the Block concert a couple months ago.
Okay.
But I've been to so many, I don't know. They're all super fun. So that
So
was me and Dan's thing when we were younger. We went to concerts all the time.
so the not so new kids on the block, the mid 50s kids on the block.
Hey, I text Brandy the whole time. She was asking questions about the whole concert.
I was not then, nor am I now their target audience, so can't speak to that. Shoot, favorite concert. I don't like going to concerts. I got spoiled. For about 10 years, I worked in the bar industry, and through doing security and bouncing at bars, I got a lot of like the leftover, has been concert crew that would come through, or, acts that maybe were a one-hit wonder and they'd come through 20 years after their prime at the bar I was working at. Worked a lot of those concerts, but doing event security, I got to work at a number of other concerts. Trying to think of ones. So my first concert I went to was Kiss. Kiss came to the Sullivan Arena in Anchorage, Alaska. That was my first concert. The sound system there's terrible, but Kiss isn't a great band, so that didn't really matter. What was cool was there was no seat. I was in the nosebleeds. There was no seat in that building that you couldn't just feel the percussion of all their pyro and stuff, or the heat when they've got all the different fireworks and craziness that they're doing. So it was a fun concert. Thought that one was really good. Celtic Woman, I worked that concert, and they were really nice, and they were, a bunch of them had crazy food things where a bunch of them were like vegans or gluten-free, whatever they were. All I know is I got to eat good because they let me come and eat the food in the green room. So I was happy about that. Humpty and Digital Underground came to the bar I was at. I also got to eat some of Humpty's food, and I appreciate that. Honestly, that band was really cool. So again, not my particular jam, but they were contracted basically to come up and do the Humpty Hump song. And that was basically it. And everybody's like, oh yeah, I remember that. That was hilarious. And then they were getting their paycheck and going. But it was cool because he stuck around the whole rest of the night. He got up on stage with the house like cover band thing that we had there and sang with those guys. And he went around to, just randoms throughout the bar, shaking hands and making friends with people. That was really cool to see. And his, members of his band were super nice to us. They were really good guys. I went. We also had. Oh no, I went to Huey Lewis and the News concert up there that I was working, and the News were awesome, but Huey Lewis was really a jerk to a lot of people. But his band was super cool. Another thing that was interesting was I went to the hotel up there with Vanilla Ice, and he was the most picky and ridiculous about getting the sound system set up at the beginning and all the mic check. He didn't go on until like an hour late. It was absurd. But once he did, he was really nice. He was a real guy. He was nice to everybody. He was friendly with all his fans. He didn't think he was too cool to do, his old stuff that's kind of corny and to do his Ninja Turtles stuff and everything else. That was pretty cool. That's what I got off the top of my head as far as concerts. I know that's a little bit beyond the scope of the question. What else we got? We got another question here. Heather, please share your experiences about representing our gods in the Bible Belt. Your accent is very nice. Hail.
I really haven't had any issues at all. I did a coat drive at my job, and they all gave us coats for the Hoff. A good bit of my coworkers know that I'm Asatru. Anybody who comes to my house knows that I'm Asatru. My neighbor is absolutely fascinated with it. She always is asking us something. She really actually enjoyed the Green Man video. Daniel sent it to her. I haven't had any issues, but I try to not keep it a secret. I feel the more secretive you are about it, the more that they feel you're trying to hide it, the more it's something they feel that they can attack you for, I guess, because I really don't hide who I am. So there's nothing like to come be ugly to me about, because it's all out in the open already.
I think that's really, really important. And I hope other people who hear this take that to heart. One of the best defenses that there is to just be proud of who you are and what you're doing and be wide open with it. People so often expect for you to be defensive or for you to act shady about what you do, and they smell that on you. When you act like you're doing something wrong, instinctively, the rest of us smell that and assume that you must be up to something that's no good or nefarious. If you are happy and proud of who you are and proud of what you believe, there's, only so much they can say. Yeah. And if they come at you one way and you're like, yep, anyways, they don't really know what to do. If you don't take a step back on your heels and get defensive, and you're just proud of who we are and what we do, it really stops a lot of problems before they start. I've found that to be true, certainly for me. And I want to throw this out there too, that it's, I would welcome that compared to the other things we get. I would much rather have the discussion of, religious differences with a sincere person of faith than I do listening to shrill, woke millennials yell about racism. If the reason that you're coming at us is on Asatru versus Christianity, fantastic. I would love to have that conversation, because that's a real conversation and it's about our faith and it's important. If you just want to come at me with some woke nonsense, it's just tedious and frustrating. So, I wish we got more. I wish we could change that ratio. It's one of the interesting things. Some of the only real life criticism we've got up at Baldershoff in Minnesota, even though the media tries to manufacture a lot of criticism. A few of the real life incidents are, older Christian people genuinely concerned about the fate of our eternal soul, and I respect that. If that's what you want to talk to us about, I respect it.
But
Go ahead.
I always told Lauren, because my daughter has never hid who she was either at school or anything. But I always told Lauren, people fear what they don't know. So if you're upfront with them and you let them know that you're just a normal person doing something different than what they do, then they're usually pretty accepting of it. It's when you keep it a secret that they fear it. They don't know what it is. It's scary. When if you're just open about it and you don't have to tell them everything, but explain the basics, usually they're pretty okay with it.
That's always been one of my hopes for this program and kind of what this program evolved out of. And some of that's internal or whatever else, but I'm proud of who we are, and I'm proud of what we do, and I'm proud of the AFA, and I'm proud of our gods. And I really wanted to always have an open door policy to where, if you got a question, just ask. It's why I do interviews with, pretty much anyone who asks me, as long as they're respectful. And, if you burn us by being dishonest once, then that's your opportunity. And I'm not going to go down that again. Like folks with the Guardian, I really have no interest in working with them again. But anybody who honestly has questions, anytime, night or day, I would love to talk to those people and answer stuff. I want us to be proud and open about who we are and what we do. It's been a huge theme of the Asatru Folk Assembly in my time as Alsherier Gothi. I know that Witten Clifford Erickson, good friend of mine, who's been on the program before, that's a big thing of Cliff's too. He's always been a big proponent of, practicing Asatru in the daylight, as he calls it. And I have found that is the best thing we can do, is be who we are, be proud of it. It helps all of us when one of us does it. When more of us do it, it helps people that are reluctant to. It helps our children have something that they can grow into and feel proud of. It's by far the best thing we can do. Not really just no segue, but it just occurred to me that on this broadcast, I should mention it. We got to run in some numbers, and the AFA grew by 20% last year. In 2022, the Asatru Folk Assembly grew by 20%, and that's fantastic. It's really been an amazing year for us. And I also wanted to point out, because I don't think we talk about this enough, our homeschool program is still going very strong. Checking in at the end of the second quarter, that's going great. Our kids are doing great. Our parents are doing great. We've retained all of the folks that started with us. And I'm being told by Gothi Stam, Dean Stam, that we will be ready with not only first grade this coming fall, but also second grade. So this coming fall, we'll be enrolling kindergarten, first, and second grade, and our kindergartners will be going on to first grade. So I think that's something that it's, because it doesn't happen at a physical location, it's hard to get that the attention that it deserves. But that's one of the things I'm most proud of that we're doing. And it's really nice that those families have stuck with that. Nick's got a question. Heather, if you were to have been selected to represent one of the other virtues, which one would you have wanted to be chosen for?
That's a hard question. I don't really know. I don't think I fit in a lot of the other categories. I'm just me, I'm just nice. I just welcome people.
Heather's getting all shy.
I don't know. I can't say the one that you just put up because I'm nowhere near some of the people that do work in the AFA. Mine's just little compared to them. See, I think when I think about it, I think of everybody who deserves it more than me. So there's so many people that do so much in the AFA that the
You
people
know,
who got it definitely deserved it.
it's hard to come up with one or to pick from all the great people that we have. I know that's a thing. So every other week, I ask all of our folk builders and our Gothar and folks, which of our leaders do they think represents these virtues the best? And there's a lot of good choices to choose from most of the time, and it's kind of a mixed bag of who we think is there, but it's always a whole lot of people suggesting the same folks, and it's usually pretty squared away. But no, I think you were an obvious choice for hospitality, and I think a very solid choice. I don't think there's a whole ton of opinion to go a different way than that. And then the second part of Nick's question, and Matt, what one virtue would you want to be known for? It's hard, Nick. If there's one virtue I'd like to be known for, it would be victory, our 10th noble virtue. But I mean, courage is certainly right up there. Yeah, I think either victory or courage, ideally both. But all of our virtues are things that would be a good answer to the question. They're all fundamental, and we should aspire to be the best at all of them. But I think those are the two that I would have to choose between. Tony asks, Matt, Heather, what does hospitality mean to you, and what advice do you have for us to better practice it, and how to temper it when it comes to disrespectful guests? So let you tackle that in the entirety, Heather, and I'll follow you up.
I'm trying to read it again. That was a lot.
Was this a good enough time to give a shout out to our producer, Nick Rice? He makes these things function smooth. He types the question up on the screen so we can all look at it and reference it. He's able to put graphics on here and really polish us up. We certainly appreciate all that Nick does to make these broadcasts work so well.
So, Tony, I would say hospitality, what it means to me, it is who I am. It's who at a small age I decided that I can't do a lot. I have a lot of things that I hold myself back with, but I can't. Hospitality is one thing that I found that I was super comfortable with doing. Super comfortable with making other people feel better, happy, welcome. It was just something that I could do that I felt like I could accomplish completely. And, the advice to have hospitality would be just be welcoming. I mean, like when you go somewhere, like as simple as if you go out to eat and you go to a restaurant. A lot of times we go to the same restaurants over and over because the people are nice to us. Like, oh, let's go there. They're really nice. It's little things if you think about it and just reenact those things that you like. Like if you're having guests over, think of things they like. If they're friends of yours, like make sure they like these snacks or these sodas, have these snacks or these sodas. Have games, have good conversation. I mean, there's so much you can do. It really is easy if you don't overthink it. I think a lot of people overthink it like it and it comes across like fake. But if you just do what comes natural to you, usually it'll be fine. And if somebody's being ugly, I just be nicer. Because I always say I don't want to come out, I don't want to be the person that comes out with egg on my face. That is what I tell everybody. So if somebody is being nasty and saying nasty things or just being disrespectful, I just keep being me and I keep being nice to them. Doesn't mean I don't see what they're doing or understand what they're doing. It's just I'm not going to act that way.
Tony, I hospitality to me basically means making others feel comfortable and welcome in your space or in the realm that you have control over. Um, and that can take so many forms. I think it's very easy for people to get caught up and feel like they need to entertain people in a grand way, or that, everything has to be perfect or else they stress. That's fine. Do it up as big as you want. But I think fundamentally, hospitality is sharing what you got. The Have 'em All speaks to that. It talks about many a friend have I made with, half a loaf of bread and a half a cup of wine. The half cup. I don't think it specifies the beverage in the cup, but the idea is, just take what you got and split it, and you're good. Here, share some chips, and you can have a beer, and we can just sit down and talk. That's all it has to be. You can host people in a royal fashion. By all means, do that. But just sharing what you have, making a seat on the couch, and welcoming somebody and making them feel comfortable, I think that's one of the most fundamentals of hospitality. And I think that there is something to be said to be careful if you overdo it or you pour it on too thick to the wrong audience. Again, it's making people feel comfortable. And if you bombard them too much, so I've run into this. We'll have people over to my home, and you'll find somebody that's very quiet and keeps to themselves. And you do the thing in your head, oh, we want to make these people feel welcome. Let's go bother them. We want to engage them, get them to talk with other people, or getting them to involved. There's a fine line of figuring out how much to encourage their involvement and how much to respect if they just want to keep their distance and work into it or observe what's going on. So again, keep your audience in mind. The goal isn't necessarily to load them up with stuff. The goal is to make them feel comfortable. And if that means loading them up with stuff, great. But sometimes that just means letting them be. So figuring out how to make a guest feel comfortable. And then how to temper hospitality when it comes to disrespectful guests. That scales up depending on the level of disrespect. If people are just mildly have a bad attitude and aren't great guests, then like Heather said, just move past them. Rather than come at them, let their rudeness fall or meet it with silence and completely ignore them and move on to somebody who's not rude. If you do that, it exposes the rudeness and shines a light on it, and maybe they'll get the message. And if they're that way consistently, then don't invite them back into your home. You have every right to let who you want into your space and to exclude who you want from your space. And if somebody, makes you mad and doesn't respect your hospitality, you're not obliged to continue letting them do that. And if they go too far and they're completely disrespectful, then by all means, ask them to leave and eject them from your location and don't have them back. But there's hospitality has obligations on the host and the guest. It evolves. Originally, the word guest and the word host were combined in one word linguistically with when they try to reconstruct Proto-Indo-European or Proto-Aryan, the word was like ghosty, and it meant the reciprocal relationship between the behavior of a host and the behavior of a guest. And there's obligations on both of those parties. And to be a really good host, I think you learn a lot from being a very good guest. And when you're used to hosting all the time, I think it helps you to be a better guest when you go to somebody else's event. So I think that's really important to keep in mind as well with that. Olivia asks, what is your elevator speech? Basically, answer in 20 seconds or so on the elevator by a curious person when they ask, what is Asatru? Heather, when you run into random people that want to know about Asatru, what is your quick explanation for them?
I told them that we worship the Norse gods and that we honor our ancestors. And then if they want to know more, then we go more. But usually that's pretty much all they'll need. When you say that, that sums it up for them.
I think that's very similar to what I say. I say Asatru is the indigenous religion of Europe, and that it's the worship of the Aesir, the gods you'd know as the Norse gods. We worship our ancestors, and we celebrate our folk and our relationships to each other. And then again, if they ask more, they're curious, then there's more I can go into, but I think that sums it up for people in a way that I think they easily can digest and understand. Your husband asks, Heather, can you speak on your experience running the kitchen at Ostara and relationship building in that space?
I cried over chicken. That's what he wants me to say. I've made a lot of really, really good friends with people helping me in the kitchen at Ostara. That's how I became friends with Timmy Dumas and Mike Malilo, which we call Mr. Chicken Grease. And they did all the dirty work for me. And then the ladies at Thorshoff, there used to be a lady at Thorshoff. She helped me our first Ostara, and that built a bond with us that was like unbreakable. Like, even though she doesn't come to the Hoff anymore, we still chat every now and then. She moved pretty far away, but then the other Ostaras, I had other ladies help me, and of course my Madison, she helps me, and Jen. So we have a pretty, and Miss Catherine, Swan's wife. We have a pretty solid team now that we've learned what we were doing. But it really, really helped build a lot of bonds with the ladies. Like Miss Catherine, she doesn't even want to be in the kitchen. She'll tell me, I'll do the cleaning and you do the cooking. So she takes care of the hall if there's any spills or trash needs to be cleaned up, and then me and whoever will do the cooking. And we work well that way. It's not like we step on each other's toes or anything. It's like a well-oiled machine. We just know our places and we go and do them. And it really brought a lot of the ladies at Thorshoff really close together, I think, having Ostara there.
Well, I think it literally brings you guys close together, and I'm surprised that you don't literally step on each other's toes. For those of you that may not know, Thorshoff, for an event like that where there's like 70 people or so, they're cooking in a really small home kitchen sized kitchen. There's not a lot of space in there, and I know I like to sneak in there and sit on the cooler and get in the way. So I'm impressed at what they can do in that little kitchen, and their kitchen's about twice as big or so as Njordshoff's kitchen. So
Yeah, I love my kitchen after I visited Nordhoff.
Yeah, we're those of us at Odenshoff and at Baldershoff are much more fortunate when it comes to kitchen space. Um, I think that is a really important thing, though, to point out with our Hoff culture. Ideally, that kitchen is a space to where our ladies really can come together and build relationships, and it's a really good setting for that. It's a nice place for that. And I know we have some guys that get in there and get involved too. It's one of those, out at Odenshoff, if we're grilling something outside, it's always nice for the guys to stand around there and have a beer and talk to each other. And I know the ladies have some of that camaraderie in the various kitchens at our Hoffs. And I always think that's such a special thing to see. Sarah asks, Heather, you did a beautiful vow renewal recently. How did Daniel and you meet?
Um, Daniel's cousin was in my math class, and she told me that I needed to go hang out with her cousins, which I think was really just because I had a car and she wanted me to drive her there. But but we did, and we started hanging out. And then I actually started dating Daniel's cousin first, and um, yeah, he was different. So I broke up with him, and then Daniel started calling me on the phone, and he would not quit calling me until I finally told him yes, that I would go out with him. So then that's how we met, and we've been together ever since that day.
When was that?
1996, right after Daniel's birthday in October.
1996. Well, that's great. It's been a little while. That's what I was in when I was going into my freshman year of high school. So it's quite a while ago. That's great. You guys are a really beautiful couple, and one of the things that I've seen be tremendously successful for people in AFA leadership is when they're able to have their spouse be involved in leadership with them. Those AFA power couples, as I like to call them, really add so much to what we do. They set an example for our folk to see living in front of them. It's really a special thing to see. And I think you and Daniel are a real inspiration to a lot of folks.
Thank you.
King of Cheese. Matt, speaking of Hoff culture, what are some things I ought to know about the Hoffs before I waddle out there for a royal visit? I'll get out there to Odenshoff at some point. You know, I don't think there's really something you got to know. Honestly, they're all very welcoming. You should absolutely go come all the way out to Odenshoff, but what you should really do before and after and in between all of that is go out to Baldershoff, that I know is much closer to you, and I really want to see you out there at Freyfaxi this year. But yeah, anytime you want to come to Odenshoff, Hoff culture things, again, it depends. You pick up on it real quick when you go there and you meet the people. There's not really any preparedness, I think, that has to go into it. You just have to go there as if you're going in a house of worship, because you are. I think the same way that you would approach going to church is the way you should approach going to one of our Hoffs and see what happens. Now, I think what we do there is so much more engaging. I think there's such a greater sense of family and togetherness, but coming there with an attitude of piety that you're coming to worship our gods and to fellowship with your folk, making sure you're speaking nobly and not, they're telling dirty jokes and cursing a bunch and whatever, that you're bringing positivity there. Um, you know, dress nicely, dress how you dress when you're going to go to a religious observance, because that's what you're doing. But no need to be uncomfortable. Another thing I'd say, and I think this is subtle, but something our people need to realize, especially our folks that aren't used to practicing Asatru in a group. It is very, very tempting, especially with the world as polarized as it is today, for when we get together, especially when somebody gets together who hasn't had a chance to vent to people that understand or that get it, they like to come to things and then get in an endless venting spiral about politics and all the things wrong about the world around us. And I understand that, especially if you don't have other people to talk to about it. But the beauty of our Hofs and the beauty of what we're doing is providing an alternative from that, rather than focusing on all the things in the world that aren't what we like or aren't the way that we wish it were. That's our chance to focus on things that are going good, things that are the way that we want, the world that we are creating together. That's what our Hofs are each a satellite for. That's what Sigerheim is being built as, an everyday space for existing in a world that does make sense, with people that we love and we care about, with good values and good traditional approaches to our gods and the world. So when you go there, focus on all the things you love and not on the things that you don't like. I'd say that's important to anybody who goes to one of our Hofs for the first time. And the other thing I'd say, and I don't know people's relative experience with interacting with the gods. Some people don't have that personal relationship with our gods yet, or are working on building that. We're all at different phases in that. But what I would say is, when you go to the Hof, go in there completely open to making friends, open to interacting in an open and a transparent way with our gods. Go there with an open mind and an open heart and see what happens. And I'm very impressed with the things I hear people to say when they've been to the Hof or any of our Hofs for the first time, and how good they feel and how at home they feel. And I hope you feel that too when you make it to our Hofs. Like I said, I want to see you at Freyfaxy. So last question we have on the side. Not sure if we've got any stragglers over in the side chat with anything. In closing, Heather, is there any message that you would want to send in general, or perhaps specifically to our ladies out there, about hospitality as a noble virtue?
I would just say, for the ladies, we all know, because we're all ladies, that we tend to like gang up, make friends with these people and not those people. And there's not really a reason why, but I think we, as ladies in the AFA, should be a little more open to just talking to each other, everybody, not just in your group or with the people you're comfortable with. Go out of your comfort zone a little bit and get to know other ladies that aren't in your area or are in your area, and just build these friendships, because these friendships could last forever if we build them the right way. We wouldn't be just friends, we are family. So our kids would have so much more if we could just all come together instead of so much bickering. And that's not just with the women, just with Asatru in general. I watch a lot where people just kind of just start spiraling out of control. And I think if we just all just took a step back sometimes and just, or see somebody who is doing that, kind of, shoot them a joke or something and try to break that cycle of negativity or whatever, I think that things would go a lot smoother and everybody would be a lot happier. Just go forward, things being smooth and chatting instead of being negative, be positive the best we can.
I think that's solid advice. And there's one question that I skipped over unintentionally earlier. Heather, I want you to name 5 books and 5 movies that are your favorites. Go.
Gosh. Do they have to be Asatru books or just any books? Okay.
The Shlomo said favorite books, 5 favorite books and movies from Heather, please.
My favorite books are going to be, I like the Norse Gods trance book for the ladies. I think that's the name of it. And I'm trying to think. It's been a long time since I've read just books, regular books, not Asatru books. I used to love crime books, so I would read all kinds of crime books. So I know I read The Lovely Bones and I read Where the Crawfish Sing. That was a pretty good book. It was a pretty good movie too. And then I like movies that are like super sad, so you probably won't like my movies, but I like the Notebook, the lovey movies, Notebook, like Gone with the Wind, Where the Crawdad Sings was a good one, and The Godfather.
All right, so Heather, you owe him 2 books and 1 movie.
Oh gosh, 2 more books. Let me think. Another movie would be Casino.
All right, now 2 more books.
2 more books. Okay. I like Lady with the Mead Cup. People say it's a dry read, but I like that book a lot. And I like, what's another book that I was just reading to read? I'm bad with names and titles. A book. Deep Ancestors. I've been reading that one a lot lately.
All right, there you have it. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was great having you on the program. I look forward to having you back on here again. And thank you so much for being so hospitable. Thanks for being you. And thanks for all you do for Thorshof. You really put a lot of heart and soul into making that a special place for Asa Thor and for the rest of us. So thank you.
Well, thank y'all for having me, and thanks for picking me. That meant a lot. It really did. I didn't expect it.
Heather, it is well deserved. You were the obvious choice, whether they picked you or not. we would have forced it through because you exemplify this like no other. So thank you for being on the show. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks everybody, the couple of folks that donated. Thanks everybody who's had great questions and provided a lively atmosphere over there in the side chat. Trent, you need to try tropical schnitzel. Tony, you need to make it to Baldershof. Seriously, you owe it to yourself. You will love it. I promise it'll be great. But yeah, until next time, hail the gods, hail the folk, hail the AFA, and remember, that victory never sleeps. Good night, guys.